Science versus God, who wins in reality?
Wow, what a title. You might be thinking, what the heck is Science Shorts doing talking about God? Well, dear viewer, as much as I enjoy finding out more about the universe we live in through science, and particularly physics, all it's good for is describing the universe through maths and measurements.
Oh, all it's good for is describing reality. Well, it's also good for predicting what things will happen in reality, and there's many things that science is really good at doing that religion isn't any good at doing, and I dare say that philosophy could only hope to do. And this enhances our modern life, makes it possible. Clean water, thanks to science. Better infrastructure, thanks to science. Better quality of life, thanks to science. Modern medicine, thanks to science. The list goes on and on, but who cares? I mean, that's just boring, mundane stuff. I wanna believe in God that can't be seen or tested or verified in any manner whatsoever. So I have to pretend that science isn't really that cool to do that. And how can I possibly do that if I admit to all the awesome stuff that science has done for us? So, science is only good to describe things. What are the? Let's move on.
We have equations that model gravitational fields, light, motion, and more, and they allow us to predict what will happen in the future on a subatomic scale all the way to exploding stars. But physics doesn't explain the universe. It doesn't tell us why it exists and why it seems to follow these rules that we enjoy decoding. It only describes how things change, not why they are. As Sir John Polkinghorne said,
And I'm going to stop you right there. And in fact, I'm not even going to bother to play all the different quotes from people that you've rounded up because they're probably cherry picked. I don't know where you got them from. And it just doesn't matter who said what when. All that matters is the argument in and of itself. Either you have a good one or you don't have a good one. And citing somebody that said something doesn't matter. What matters is the evidence, the proof that that thing is true, independent of whoever might have said it. Said, look, we have this evidence here, we have this evidence here, we have this test here. Whoever said whatever just is irrelevant in this case. Oh, this scientist said that. Well, whoopee freaking do. We've got scientists that say that there is no God. We've got scientists somewhere that might say that God is impossible. Who cares? It's not relevant. So I'm just skipping all of that. And by the way, we have zero idea where you're getting your quotes from because you have no citation at all in your video description. In fact, you don't even have a video description. It's literally Science Shorts, published on July 20th, 2019, category Education. That's it. No citations at all. So we don't know that you're being honest. These are cherry picked for all we know. These are straw men for all we know. And it just doesn't matter even if you did show us where you got it from. But the fact that you don't is a mark against you. Really, you should do better as a science show, as a educational show. Really, without giving us any citation to make sure that you're not just lying to us. Wow. Yeah. Moving on.
I want to know why I exist, why I'm able to think, why I'm able or willing to do physics to begin with, why I'm able to formulate these sentences I'm speaking now, and why I feel compelled to make this video at all.
The why question might not even be appropriate. There isn't a why for the why is this rock here. It's just there. There isn't a why. There isn't an intentionality to it. The rock is just there. It just happens to be there. There isn't an answer to that question. So it's not that the question is bad. It's the wrong question to ask. How did the rock get there can actually be answered hypothetically. Maybe not. Maybe we just don't know how the rock got there. But to assert the why assumes there is a why. And there might not be a why. Now, it doesn't also mean that because you can ask a why question that must mean that there's some why answer either. Just because you can ask a question doesn't mean anything. Why can you think? You have a brain. That's why. Well, but that's not really what you mean by why do you think, is it? You mean something else when you ask why something is, because you're bringing into the conversation an intentionality behind it. It's like, well, but why does the brain allow me to think? Well, how does it allow you to think, we can answer. But the why question might not even be something that's proposable in the first place due to logic, and certainly something that science might not be able to address at all. So then you turn to God. Well, God can answer the why question somehow. But that's really not true, because the actual honest answer sometimes is we don't know. We don't know why you can think. We know that you have a brain. We know that brains can do certain things, and we know that that produces thought. Well, but what? We don't know. How does that work? We can answer that. Maybe. Sometimes we can answer the how. But the why, when you have a question mark, that's where the apologist, which is what this guy is, mark my words, will put God. He's going to fill in that blank with God. Well, see, we don't know, therefore God.
I'm talking about finding out what's beyond space and time. What's life all about? What's outside of what we can physically observe?
We don't know is the answer. We don't even know if there is an outside of what we observe anyways, or if that even makes sense at any level to suggest that there is something outside of space-time. Maybe there is. I don't know. You don't know either. So this is where God's going to be put in, because it's an I don't know, so it must be God. Just wait. That's what's going to happen. He is going to fill in the I don't know with God.
After all, everything that we can see and touch is 99.9% empty space. For me, there just has to be something else in the universe that's...
Okay, I really want you to pay very close attention to what he said here. So I'm going to just repeat what he said a few times in a row. Just bear with me on this.
For me, there just has to be something else. For me, there just has to be something else. For me, there just has to be something else.
And there you have it. This is what this all boils down to. There just has to be something else. This is his personal belief. He believes that this is the case. It's not an assertion that you can make that, well, but there has to be something else. You don't know that. Maybe all there is all that we can observe. Maybe that's just the way it is. No, but there has to be. And it's like, no, there doesn't. But there has to be a mistake. Maybe not. This is nothing more than an appeal to ignorance / personal incredulity. It might be both, or might be just one of them, depending on how you look at it. But nonetheless, it's certainly not science. And I think it's bad philosophy, but I do know it's bad logic. Because it doesn't have to be anything more than what we observe. Maybe there is, but there doesn't have to be. That's a assumption. That's an assertion. That's based on your own desires, your own beliefs. And you might believe that there's more, but unless you can demonstrate that there's more, it's not science. So saying science versus this unfounded, untestable, unprovable belief that I have, science wins in reality. Because science studies reality. And we're only concerned with what's really real. At least I am. Maybe you're worried about what might be. And there's some things that you can come up with and think about and reflect on. And that might move you forward in life. It might not. I don't know. But what I do know is this is bad logic, and because of that, we have to be skeptical of your conclusions here.
Out of reach of our physical senses. Think about all the great scientists in the past that made huge discoveries that advanced our understanding of how the universe works. The overwhelming majority sought a truth higher than the physical. Faraday, Galilei, Kepler, Pasteur, Planck, even Einstein. The list goes on and on. In fact, you'd be hard-pushed to find a single scientist before the 20th century that refused to acknowledge at least the possibility that reality and life are more than just merely a cosmic accident.
Yeah, and you know what? If you go back far enough, you couldn't find a single doctor that thought that smoking was bad for you. Or if you go back far enough, you couldn't find a single doctor that didn't think bloodletting was a good idea. So that must mean, us and our modern sensibilities with all the discoveries we've made. I mean, who cares about all that? See, in the past, people were like cool with God, but now they're not, and that's a problem for my argument because my argument relies completely on tradition, appeal to historicity, appeal to either wrong authority or just authority in and of itself, and cherry picking. Because again, we don't know where you got any of these quotes from, anyways. And it seems to me that there might be other scientists that said the opposite or said, we just can't know. In fact, there was scientists that said, we don't even need the God hypothesis here. But we're going to ignore all of that because, well, we're in the past here. We're looking at scientists of the past. Maybe scientists of the present have information that the scientists of the past did not, and thus no longer assert, assume, or believe in some sort of deity thing because the information provided by our knowledge allows us to see that the universe can indeed come about without any other mechanism other than the fundamental forces of reality itself. It doesn't need a god. Maybe, just maybe, we've learned something since the scientists of the past. Nah, that can't be it. That's just silly. That's silly. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay, also remember from before I said I was going to skip all the times that he quoted scientists that said whatever that seems to support his ideas? Yeah, that's this bit here that I've condensed down. It's long. I'm skipping all of it. And I'm not even showing you on screen all of it, but the original video is in the description. So you can listen to all the quotes that he's taken from all these scientists and try to find where they said this and when and in what context. Good luck with that because he didn't give you any citations.
So let's try to figure out what life and God is all about from first principles. So, why would anyone even begin to think that there has to be more to the universe than what we can directly discover with science anyway?
For me, there just has to be something else.
You see what I did there? I put his own clip after the other clip. Okay, anyway, so, well, why would you abandon science? Why? You know science works. You know the methodology works. You know that it's testable, it's repeatable, it's responsible for everything that we have in the modern world, just about. So why in the world would you abandon that? I don't know. I cannot answer that. Only you, personally, the guy that made the video, could honestly answer that question. And he might not even know what the answer is because that's psychology. You're talking about your brain and what it's doing and the motives, and sometimes those motives are even hidden to yourself to some degree at some level, but maybe you do know what it is. I don't know. It's really complex. But why would anyone leave behind that system without a system that's equally as good or better than that system? Well, because the system is inadequate to answer these questions. So, are you suggesting that we abandon a system the moment that it's unable to answer a question? Perhaps so. Great. So the new system, you have a way to demonstrably demonstrate that this new system is as good or better, right? Right? Hello? No? You don't? Oh, interesting. Why use it then? Okay, so you've abandoned a system that you know works because it didn't answer the why question, even though the why question might be malformed in the first place. So now what system are we using? If we're using a system without any rules, then everything goes. So there would have to be some rules to this system. Explain what system you are now using. What is that system? Is it pure philosophy or is it logic? Because logic at least has rules to it. It's the only system that I know about that has rules to it that's something other than science in and of itself. And logic is a subset of philosophy. So if you're going to do philosophy, fine. But you then need to apply a system that is shown to work, which is logic. Now, maybe you know of a different system, a third option that I've never heard about. Then explain that system, label it, name it, tell us how it works, how we can use it to discover what's true or real or come to any sort of conclusions and know that it is robust and useful. Do that, and I'll examine that system. But for right now, you haven't offered us that other option. You've left behind science, that's for sure. For logic, which is what I'm criticizing you about not doing in this video, you've ignored logic. Logic has no place in your arguments. You don't have a single syllogism. Not that you need one to make a logical argument, mind you, but you don't have any syllogism. You don't have a coherent argument. You have nothing but logical fallacies to offer us. So within the system of logic, we that care about logic, that understand logic at some level, must be skeptical of your conclusion, which is obviously God. And it's also a subset of that is obviously to ignore science when it becomes inconvenient for your desired outcome, which is God. But only if God is something that science can't discover or hasn't discovered yet. But if God is part of the universe, then we could find God. But that's not your conception of God, because if it was, you wouldn't abandon science. So it just follows logically that your concept of God cannot be something that would be within the confines of science to demonstrate anyways, a natural God, which is what, by the way, Einstein usually was talking about when he mentioned God, but we're going to straw man and cherry pick his quotes anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so that's it for now. Part 2, maybe. I don't know. There's more to cover, more to complain about. Do you want me to complain about his video more? Or do you think that this was good enough? I mean, I didn't list the logical fallacies or have the numbers. I could do that next time, like if you really wanted me to. Please, Deconverted Man, do it. I want you to just crush him. Crush him with the words and with the logic and stuff. I doubt that he'll respond to this video or watch it, because why would he? His ideas can't withstand critical analysis or critical questioning. He certainly doesn't have science. He's admitted to that. We have to discard science from the equation. So that obviously means there can't be any empirical evidence or repeatable test. That leaves us only with a valid and sound argument, which we certainly don't have so far. And if you really think that he's magically going to somehow recover in the part that I have yet to cover of his video, then be like, yeah, Deconverted Man, you need to do a part 2. Or maybe you just want me to pwn him some more. I'll do either way is fine. I don't know. Alright, that's it. We don't have those things, so we have to be skeptical of his conclusion. He's not going to recover, by the way. Spoiler alert. He doesn't recover in the rest of his video. His argument just keeps being the same broken appeal to ignorance / personal incredulity. In fact, it gets worse as he goes on. So he just continually adds logical fallacies to the argument. But I'll still do a part 2 if you really want me to. I mean, if you want to break my brain, go ahead and say it. Just make it so. Just, I don't do this.